All right, so it's warm in here. Actually, let me turn the fan on because I know you guys are gonna say I hear a noise, right? But it's hot in this man cave. I need to actually pop an air conditioner in. We've really gotten behind on work that needs to be done on the house, which kind of ties into the story a little bit, right? Um, but we got behind because we didn't expect there to be this, this expensive. Nah, it's not good. We didn't expect that there will be a huge expense in the cost of wood and construction materials. We didn't expect that, and so that is the case currently. Hopefully, that will resolve itself. But the high cost of lumber and building materials is really crimping the style of a lot of things. So minor things like, I would like to, basically build a little deck out here or, whatever, remodel the bathroom. Those are small projects, but they cost a lot of money nowadays because lumber's so expensive. But they're not things that I have to get done. I can wait a couple of years, 3, 4 years, and be okay, right? So now, I'm going to put that in so I won't forget. The Tacoma Town Center, let's talk about it, right? Because, I've been following this project for a long time. They broke ground a long time ago. It was going to be this big, amazing thing. And the company that built the large hotel kind of helped with this project too. So the big hotel in Tacoma, the big Marriott, and that project got started first, and then the town center got started. Different groups of people, but I think they're working together, or they work together, or something like that. I don't know the details of that relationship. I just know that was kind of the circumstance, right? And when this project broke ground, the town center, there was a big to-do because they essentially had the ceremony and all of this stuff, right? So the company that was actually constructing this, they would have update videos on a website or on YouTube of what's going on, different stages of the progress, and all of a sudden it just stopped. At one point, the project slowed down and all of this and just kind of stopped. And there was news about it. Well, the people who are financing this are from Wuhan, China. And if you know anything about Wuhan, China, it's been in the news a lot lately because of the sickness. And when this project started, this company, the people that are mainly investing in this, were from Wuhan, China. And this project was expected to be about $125 million. It was going to have a freestanding large retail site, which would have been about 180,000 square feet. Inside of that would have had a lot of different stores, and they were going to even have either a movie theater or they were going to have a grocery store. And they had talked about that they were going to have an not EA Sports, sorry, but they were going to have like an esports arena in there, which is basically a big computer gaming area that people can, game and stuff like that. That still may happen, not sure. But it was 125 million, and they were going to use the EB5 program. Basically, people there in China would invest in this project of a certain amount of money, and the U.S. government would give you a faster pathway to citizenship. And the hope was that they were going to stay here in Tacoma and live here, right? They're going to be investors. It would have been great for them to live here. That was the plan. Enter in COVID. And that is what knocked this project down. They could not come up with the financing to complete it. And because of that, a company that was called North American Asset Management was what they called themselves. They were planning on building this town center, and what they were hoping to do was to do two different things. Build the town center on this 6.4 acre site, which the city of Tacoma at one point was going to put the police station there. But they decided that it was a better use to use it for something else, and they moved that away. And so they sold it to this company, and this company was supposed to build this big giant center. And it broke ground in October 12th of, 2016, 2017. It's going to be kind of an open air market. Bicycle lane down the middle and all of that. Right? So they have after 12 months of intensive permits and processing and all of that, it was approved. So it's going to have entertainment attraction, 500 units of apartment, including 140 units for students and all of that. Later on, they were going to go to Tacoma or to Seattle and build a large tower called the 8 Tower. And it was going to be a big giant high rise. I don't know how many floors, but a lot of them, which it would have been nice had they did that here versus these mid rises. But nonetheless, they were going to build this big, huge, tall tower. It's a Class A property. They were going to build that. Rooftop dining and the like. They were also planning on building Fremont apartment in Seattle, and they still may do that. But it's a mid-rise and it's under design phase. That was kind of their whole plan. Now, they've added some stuff on here since I've last looked at their page because they didn't have this Fremont apartment on here. That's new. But the financing fell through, and the building costs ballooned. So instead of $125 million, the plan, because they've altered and changed things, it ballooned to $300 million. And they didn't have the funding for that part. But they did complete the one section, which is called building number 2. Building number 1 would have been the big retail space. Building number 2 was the residential on top and a little bit of retail down below, and that was for $39 million to build that. It's got parking and everything else. It's completed. It's called Jefferson Yards. That's the name that they've coined it. So that particular project is done. There's parking down below. There's some retail space, and then there's apartments up above. And they have about 144 apartments, right? Now, this was designed initially. Remember, I said that they were designed 140 units for students. This particular building was supposed to be the student housing, right? They were going to mainly make that for students. And so because they went through the city and they got city land and they had all these different improvements and, again, the permit process, Tacoma is a city that in order to breathe air, you have to get a permit. This is one city that is heavy on permits for everything, for every little bitty tiny thing. It's very heavy permit and very restrictive. It just is. It is. So you have a better chance of not making it versus making it. And even there, it says that it was a very intensive permit process. A lot of great projects could have happened, but the city is just too restrictive. I've been saying that. Even when Topgolf was going to come here, I think that part of that plan fell through because of the city. Not because of Topgolf, but because of the city. The city is just very, very difficult in general. And there's some in the city government who even talk about how difficult it is at times for certain projects. The city's not used to those. It's not used to these unique new projects. But nonetheless, this old plan was going to have 600 total market rate apartments, 200,000 mixed use retail. Of that, 180,000 square feet of that would have been this large giant block that was going to be either a grocery store as well as a grocery store or a movie theater. And then you're going to have some retail along the side there, right? It was going to have an additional 20,000 square feet of retail throughout the rest of the project. So for a grand total of 200,000, right? Now that they don't have the funding, they're going to the city to say, hey, we can't do this anymore. So we want to turn this over to another company and have them do the full build out because we can't afford it. And so the city is now going to decide if they're going to approve it or not, right? Because they're saying we can't afford $300 million. So now if the city approves this one company called Galinda Equity Partners has the funding to do this. But they're saying if we do this, we want to change it and do it the way that we want to. And so the new plan calls for a total of 491 additional apartments beyond the 144 that was created. 393 of those would be market rate apartments. And so the building that's already built, the Chinese developer will still own that, right? They're just, the rest of this will be handed off to another developer. And they have to do this because it's city land. So the project changed. And when you change it, you have to go through the city to do it. They have to approve it. The government has to approve it. So the Chinese developer will own that one block that's 144 apartments and the retail spaces they have down below, right? Which is 6,000 square feet of retail space. So they're going to own that block. That part's complete and finished. That can open up tomorrow. They completed that back in March. It's ready to go now, right? The reason why they haven't leased anything is because the city has to say yes. If the city says no, then more than likely this company would have to figure something else out. But that's why they haven't leased or done anything. They're waiting on what the city says. If the city says yes, that building's going to open up. You're going to have parking and all that in this development, and people can move in, and stores will move in. The new plan escalates the amount of office that's going to be built. Remember, I did a video talking about the office building that was going to be built. The original office building, I don't know if I actually put it. Let's see. Oh yes, the original office building was going to have 50,000 square feet of space, right? And the total project would have had 600 parking stalls. This new company is saying no. One of the big crucial problems that the city of Tacoma doesn't want to talk about is lack of parking. The city doesn't want you to mention that. But the lack of parking is stopping developers from building big towers. They don't want to deal with building parking garages. They're expensive. To build an actual parking space is pretty expensive to do. It has always been historically expensive. Surface level parking's cheap. Parking garage is expensive. I mean, if you think about it, you're just building a bridge, stacking a bridge on top of itself, right? So this company is saying we want to escalate it and basically like quadruple the amount of square feet for the size of what we're going to do. It's going to be a 200,000 square foot office building, and they're wanting to have 1,000 total parking spaces. So increase the parking spaces by 400 and then go from 50,000 square feet of office to 200,000 square feet of office. Now that's interesting because right now there is a massive shortage of available clear office space. When we're talking 200,000 square feet, that's Amazon territory. That's when I'm not saying that that's who they're catering to, but that's Amazon territory. If you look at projects that Amazon looks at, they're looking for big, huge chunks of space. So then what they want to do as far as the retail side of things, they want to increase it. So instead of 20,000 square feet of mixed retail space, they want to add 36,000 square feet of mixed retail space and no standalone retail. You know that big block that would have had the movie theater? They're saying we're not going to do that at all. But what we do want to do is add a little bit to what they were going to do, add an additional 16,000 square feet of retail and bring that up to 36,000. So in other words, they're going to add an additional 491. Okay, Google, what's 491 plus 144?
491 plus 144 is 635.
Okay, so the project is going to add an additional 35, roughly, apartment units, depending upon what you're looking at. When you look at this old company's project, they were saying it's going to be 500 units. So in other words, it would be adding 135 more units. If you look at some of the other changes that they made later on, it's like adding an additional 35, right? So it makes a lot of sense in terms of what they're trying to do, but they're literally trying to add to this project by adding 98 affordable apartment units, right? So 98 of those, more than likely, they're trying to go for some sort of tax abatement with the city, is more than likely what they're going to do. So they have to throw in some affordable apartments. And then the vast majority, 393, are going to be market rate apartments. So this is going to be still a town center, if you will, and it's going to throw in quite a bit of new retail space, which is still a good viable project. However, if the city approves this, which they probably will, because the city doesn't want this to just sit. They don't want that land to go vacant and just sit where it is and all of that. More than likely, they're going to approve this, and you have any sort of equity firm has tons of money. I mean, that's what they do, is get money. You now have a group of people that can actually get this done. So I see the city probably approving it. Now the city may come back and say, yeah, but we want this and we want that and we want a little bit extra this. They may say, we want you to have extra components to this before we approve it, right? But this is what's going on with the Tacoma Town Center part. The city of Tacoma is lacking two things now that is really becoming apparent. Office space, because they will say there's a lot of office space in the city. But we're talking office space that is kind of fragmented all over downtown. There's only a few buildings downtown that are technically Class A office space. There's only a handful. And so the city needs more additional office space where a company can come in and take the whole building or big chunks of a building at a time. Some of that's freeing up, but it's quickly being absorbed. A lot of companies are starting to come down here. This project addresses that office component to it. The city may even say, build the office building first. If you're going to do this, build the office building first, because the lack of parking and the lack of office is what's keeping a lot of bigger companies away, because they need to know, like, hey, I'm able to grow whatever I need to. For example, Infoblocks, which is down here in Tacoma, they love Tacoma. One of the big issues for them to grow is they need more space. There's other tech companies that are startups that are down here. Some of the things that they're looking for is office space. Now, some of them are so small they can fit in any number of office spaces and they can commit to those at some later point in time. They're not big behemoths. But some of them are looking for good, viable space, and this solves that better than the original plan of just 50,000 square feet of office. The reason why I think that they're not so focused heavily like the other company was on apartments is because there's so many other projects that will take apartments into consideration, and they're coming online. And so there's more people competing for projects. When this town center was thought of back in 2016, the city was a completely different place. Tacoma in 2016, which is not that long ago, but in Tacoma in 2016 did not have the massive attention that it does today. It didn't have the high demand of housing. It didn't have the high demand like it is now. It's always been kind of rough for the last few years, but it didn't have as much focus. Now you have a city that's just busting at the seams. There's not enough housing to handle the people. There's not enough retail space downtown to handle the people, viable, new, relevant retail space. There's not enough office. There's not enough anything. Not enough parking. So this particular project itself is going to be very, very important. Another area that I probably think would have a lot of potential and the city is itching to develop is the Dome District. The city owns a lot of land over in the Dome District. That is one area that will probably be, there's still a lot of spaces in downtown that needs to be developed. That's one area that the city is itching to actually get developed because it has so much potential and it's near all the transportation. You literally would have two separate downtowns, right? Because you have the Dome District and you have downtown. There is a gap there. And there has always been this effort. If you look at old plans, they had hoped that you would have just literally decent sized buildings all the way connecting the whole area. That never happened. They never got to develop the Dome District the way that they wanted to. and you have a lot of parking spots over there. However, they tried to sell this as an entertainment district, and a company bit, but it didn't really do what they wanted it to do. They wanted it to be more of a Kansas City Live type deal where you have, a lot of retail and a lot of, restaurants and bars and stuff like that. That didn't happen. This project comes kind of close, and I think the city should work with them and say, this is kind of what we're hoping for. Can you kind of do some stuff like this? Can you kind of get some themed restaurants here and these types of things? Can you talk to Topgolf and actually have them have a Topgolf suite where basically it's not, or a lounge, Topgolf Lounge, where you actually can have people from the general public come in and play? That solves the Topgolf issue. It doesn't really cover what would have happened, but that kind of helps. That provides some entertainment. So we'll see. The other area which people have talked about is the big the big parking lots downtown. It's owned by, to my understanding, it's owned by one landlord who's looking to sell to a big company. They're wanting to put like a big project there. So you're not really going to get just a mid-rise there. It's a prime location. It's right there on Pack Avenue. It's not just going to be some basic little structure. They're really wanting something that's got some strength to it. So that section is prime and ready for development. Some of the other areas downtown can be prime for mid-rises and stuff like that. And then you have the Dome District, which is slowly starting to build up. There's apartment projects going on there. Trax is one of them. There's a few others that are going to be popping up soon. But that area is going to be the next space when we're talking about the downtown region. But anyhow, that's the update for the Tacoma Town Center. I knew something was up because the project just slowed. They were just scooting rocks around the last time I was there, right? They finished the whole building. They finished the inside of it. It seems like the one original developer wants to get out of it. And so they've completed their portion of it. And you're going to have at least 144 apartments ready to go. That's still a big boon for that area. There's enough parking to accommodate those people for those 144 units. They're going to be at market rate. Then they have retail that can automatically go into place. If you just had that building alone, that would be great. But to finish the whole project, which is what they're hoping to do, this other company is wanting to put in an office building, which is going to be amazing. I would imagine it could be in place of the large standalone retail space. I think that would probably be what they were going to do. And if you look at the retail space would have been 180,000 square feet, right? That was the original plan. So basically, they're just converting that whole thing into an office building. Whether they build up, don't know. In order for you to get that much square footage, you would have to almost literally build up. It would have to be a few stories tall to do that. Who knows what they're going to do? But if I were the city, I would play this very carefully. I would definitely approve this because it's right there in a very vital area. But I would definitely want some assurances that A, this can get done, B, that they actually have a viable office building that's going to look attractive, that's going to, bring people in. If you look at the tower that they were going to do in Seattle, it's this nice glass shiny tower. We need more of that here, to be honest with you. Give us something that looks good. Give us something that's going to attract people, not something that is not. Give us retail spaces that are going to look good, right? Tacoma deserves that. So anyhow, that's the update for the town center. It's kind of in a hold pattern. They've completed a tiny section of it, but the rest of it needs to be completed. They claim that if it's approved by the city, it will be completed fully in 2025. Now, it's supposed to be completed relatively now, right? But if approved by the city, they're saying they'll have the project done by 2025. So we're talking basically another 4 years. Not even that, really, 3.5, right? They would basically start work in July. So you're talking literally 3.5 years. They would have to get cranking to get this done. Hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you join the Discord down in the description box below. Make sure that you comment, like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.